Welcome everyone, I'm Dominique, CTO and co-founder of Dropsolid, and welcome to our podcast, the Open Digital Experience podcast. We will be talking about content management systems, digital experience platforms, everything you need to build the best customer experience. We will be talking about Drupal, Matic, everything open source to do this, and we will be interviewing experts from inside our company and also outside our company. So, if you have 30 minutes, you go on a bike ride, go on a drive, put on our podcast and enjoy and learn everything digital experience. Hello everyone, good day. Welcome to the Dropsolid podcast. Today I'm having at the podcast Rembrand Compte, our accessibility expert. Rembrand has plus 15 years, I think almost 17 years experience building front ends as a developer, as a designer. Rembrand has a lot of experience in this topic, and let's dive in directly. Rembrand, accessibility and digital experiences, how are they connected?
The first thing to keep in mind when building digital experiences is to try to include as many people as possible, and that's why terms like accessibility exist. And digital accessibility is just about making sure that as many people as possible have access to the digital tools and the services that you make.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, that's a really concise and short answer. Because digital accessibility, it's pretty broad, I expect.
Well, yeah, of course. When we think of accessibility, it's easy to think about someone who doesn't really see or someone who doesn't really hear very well. But we really have a very broad spectrum of disabilities and circumstances which make it difficult to access something. For the obvious examples are, of course, someone who is colorblind, can't really see the colors or the contrasts on the website. But of course, there's also people who have three screaming children walking around, and they really have to get something done or fill in a form online, or maybe there's someone outside trying to book a ticket on their cell phone, but yeah, it's really noisy outside, or they have a lot of light on their screen and all the colors are washed out. So that's also important to keep in mind. It's not about people who have disabilities. It's really a lot about circumstances and about creating the right circumstances for as many people as possible to be able to do what they want and do what they need to do online.
All right. Yeah, we've been in web development for some time. I still remember when we first met that we were both developers in 2007. Since then, things changed a lot. Like building websites back then was completely different than now. So I imagine that accessibility has evolved as well in the last 17 years. Could you talk to us what kind of major evolutions you saw play out during the years, and also what is to come in the future?
Yeah, of course. Well, one thing we've seen, of course, in the past 15 years is that a lot more things are happening online. So a lot more people are getting online. In this period, we've seen smartphones appear and we've seen tablets appear that didn't exist over 15 years ago. So we're seeing that a lot more people in the population are getting online, and with that, of course, that means there's more potential people who have maybe a disability. There's also a lot of circumstances that are created in which people have to access things online. A good example is the aging population, for example. We know that there's a lot of people over 65 that are online. I think we have about 2 million people who are of the age that are pensioners, basically, and 30% of those people we know are online very regularly. So that's a really big potential user base that is accessing your websites, and that's a lot more than it used to be. But also from people 15 to 65, from that active population, we also know that there's 6% of those people that have some kind of disability, but most of them are also online. They also need to be able to access their banking online, for example, or visit the website and get some information. And those people, that accounts for, I think, about 760, almost 800,000 people. So that's a really big potential user base that you can address now. And we didn't used to have that many people online. But yeah, that is the trend that we're seeing. There's more and more happening online. More and more people need to be able to get online and do what they need to do.
Okay, so what you're actually saying is that accessibility is a big business opportunity because of the, yeah, because of the numbers. What did you say? 8% of 10 million people in Belgium, so 800,000 people with a disability. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
we've got some numbers we picked up from Stadbel, from the Belgian Statistics Agency, from 2020, and it was, we got some really high numbers when we started digging into some of the articles and some of the lists.
okay. So in accessibility, to make it a reality, we work with frameworks, we work with content management systems, we work with digital experience platforms, as they are now called. Like in the case of here at Dropsolid, we work with Drupal, with our own Drupal distribution. Could you also talk a little bit about how Drupal has, through the years, made it possible to build accessible web experiences?
Drupal on its own as a tool has always been on the forefront, or tried to be on the forefront of accessibility. Everything that is being built is with accessibility in mind. They have a statement page about that as well on Drupal.org. And because it's open source, of course, everybody who builds on top of that can take advantage of the components and the elements that are already in there. One of the things that we do as a company, we have our own distribution called Rocketship. And with Rocketship, especially with the custom themes, we really try to improve on the elements that already exist. So we try to make sure that the HTML, for example, it's semantic HTML, it follows a lot of the guidelines in order to make something accessible. It's not 100% there yet out of the box, but we do make a lot of effort to build on top what's already there and to really prepare it for when we have a custom design, when we make something for a client. And it's just the final steps of really making sure that everything clicks together, that the design is on point, and the last bits of the components really work the way that they should. So it's a process, but we have a good baseline, and we have a lot of good stuff we can build on top of.
Okay. Can you go a little bit more deeper, like what exactly Drupal brings out of the box? Like explain some of the components that, for example, if you would be using another proprietary CMS that has not had the eye for detail in accessibility like Drupal had, what would that mean? What would that be?
Well, some of the elements that we use in websites day to day, of course, is making a lot of web forms, making a lot of elements that are interactive for the user. So all those elements are already pushed out of the box by Drupal in an accessible way. That means things like input fields, submit buttons, all those are built from semantic HTML, which means it's HTML written from a kind of standard that is readable by assistive technology. So people who use text readers, for example, and who have less motor skills and use keyboards to navigate, they can use those screen readers, they can use those keyboards to just tap through a form and highlight all the elements that they need, input all the information, and just submit the form without actually having to use a mouse, for example. So all those base properties already exist in those components. So that's a little bit less stress for the developer. I think it's a little bit less to think about when you know that what's being pushed out by Drupal is already about 90% there.
Yeah. So yeah, because if you would have to do that from scratch, what would be the effort required to get it done then?
Well, kind of depending, of course, how complex your website is and what you have to build. But yeah, if you have to think about every little component that you add to the website, is it accessible? Is it constructed in the right way? I mean, that adds days upon the work you have to do when building it. So it's really handy that we have a kind of a toolbox that a lot of people use and also give feedback on and try to improve, so that we takes a little bit of the thinking away from us in order to move a bit faster.
Yeah, because a lot of sites just require to be accessible. If we build websites for hospitals, for example, or for government agencies, requirement is they have to be accessible, because they have to be accessible for the whole of the population. So for the 8% we are talking about, at 10 million people, that's 800,000 people. And if you're an international organization, if you're a European government agency, that's the whole of Europe. But could you talk us, like, why would commercial organizations care?
Well, that's a really big question, of course. So yeah, we have the legal obligations, like you say. We can try to get as many people on those websites and make it accessible because it's legally required. On the other hand, some things that we've seen in the last couple of years is a lot more people are getting online. Like I said earlier, that's a huge potential for people who have services, who advertise their services. A web shop is a really obvious example for this. We saw during Corona, for example, that a lot of people, couldn't get to the shops, but they still had to get something. And we also see it during the holidays, a huge spike in what's being bought. And all of that is made a lot easier by having a website online. But if you can't really access that website, it's kind of useless. So you're leaving a huge potential customer base in the cold if you're not adapting your website to the needs of those visitors that maybe have poor eyesight, or maybe they have less motor skills, or maybe they're really busy, they don't have time to read pages upon pages of text, so they really want like these snappier bits of text and less information but more to the point. If you take those people into account, you've got that 800,000 extra users potentially that can get on your site and make use of your services or buy your products. So there's a huge economic incentive there.
Yeah, it is, because everyone's online these days. And even so, I think even if it's not for the money, like for me, also as a business owner of this business, Dropsolid, I'm pretty happy with it that our website is accessible to anyone. It makes it's just also part of the values of some companies to just make it inclusive.
Yeah, it can sound real corny if you say like we want to make things better, but I do believe that by taking these things into account, you do make things a lot better, and everybody is better for it. I mean, the example from Corona is a really good one. I think the fact that a lot of people were confronted with the fact they couldn't get outside their house, I think is a really important lesson, because there really are a lot of people who are in some way locked off from certain aspects of society. It's not always literally being unable to leave your house, but you see how difficult it can be if something that you really count on and think of as normal, if that falls away, and you're left with no other options, yeah, that's a really difficult situation. So giving people more tools and more ways to interact with each other or do things online, I think really makes it a lot better for everyone as a whole. And yeah, we also see it in other elements of assistive technology. For example, right now we could all have a digital assistant in our house because everybody has, or most people have, a smartphone with an assistant. So you can just, if you want to call someone, you can just ask your phone to do it for you. You don't even have to touch it. If we drive around with the GPS that tells us where to go, that's also part of assistive technology. But you see, by implementing it in daily life, it does make life better for everyone. It adds a lot of convenience for everyone and not just a few select people. So yeah, I do think by taking all these things into account, we do make things better for anyone, or at least a lot more convenient.
Yes, and if we look at the future of assistive technology, in fact, you could argue that the DXP, which is the evolution of content plus data, not just only content, which is a CMS, but content plus data. And then, of course, I have to add the whole AI thing to it. How do you see the assistive technologies like DXP improve the accessibility even more?
Well, the fact that a lot of things are interconnected makes it easier to find something if you want to do something. Like in our DXP, for example, we have customers that have a CMS, but they maybe also have a Motic where they send out newsletters. They also have access to visitor data to get segments out of people and know who to target. So getting all that the convenience of having all that data come together, and then on top of that, assistants like potentially AI assistants making sense of that data and helping you to find what you want is really a plus, I think. If you have to separate all those elements and go find it in separate places, makes your life a lot harder. So yeah, any kind of tooling and any kind of system that makes it easier for you to find something, or actually gives you a hand in helping you to do something faster and easier, is assistive technology, is something more that makes life more convenient. It saves you time, it saves you money. So, and in the long run, that's a lot of what is accessibility is about: making things easier for people, removing the hurdles that really shouldn't really be there.
Okay. So lots of opportunities. We don't know what they all will be, but we can already see things coming towards us. All right. Good, Rembrandt. Thank you. Thank you for enlightening us on accessibility. I think for me, if I recap it, so it's been a huge evolution in the last 15 years in accessibility and digital experiences. It has a huge return on investment because of everyone is online right now. It also, if you want to have a deeper vision as a company, you just need to have it. It's not just an afterthought. And then, of course, technologies like Drupal, and then broader the OpenDXP, they really help in making it easier to get the applications out there and to making them more assistive. That's what I remember. Anything to add?
No, I think that's about sums it up. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thanks. Bye bye.